Have you checked the children? Your little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Marcia Parker.
And you have Jaime and Fuego here, and we are finally catching up on all of our September, October, and this is the craziest time of year for us patrons, and we appreciate your patience. We are finally getting around to a pull request for none other than Teeth. Yes, that is right. A film that I will never forget seeing the cover art for in the local video store, where the girl is in the bathtub, and you're like, what in the hell is this craziness going to be all about? And dare I say, it does live up to the premise, despite the fact that it is a very strange film that blends so many different tones of dark, black as midnight comedy, gore, the commentary on religion. There is so much more, so much more, sexual abuse. I mean, all kinds of stuff. This film, it's got a lot of ideas. I don't, as far as overall thoughts, know how well they all coalesce together and fit. But
they try.
Ambitious, that's for sure. So I was entertained. I saw this film, I think it was 2007, 2006, somewhere around there when it first came out. And I did watch it at a party at a friend's house, but I only remembered bits and pieces. I'd forgotten about the fact that she was a go with Christ sort of person and, got a ring on my finger to remind me what I cannot do sort of thing. I forgot all about that subplot. All I remembered was that vagina teeth. That's all I remember.
That's all anybody says about this movie.
Exactly. So I will toss the baton over to the lady who sports one of those, obviously, as they usually do.
Not
but
vagina teeth, just vaginas.
Yes.
Or do I?
Dun, dun, dun. Pete, I hope you're okay.
Maybe I should call him after. No, so there's like two movies that I've never really ever wanted to watch. And this is one of them. I won't say the other one because it'll end up on a Patreon. And I think might have already been on a Patreon and I avoided it. Like
I wonder what it is now. Damn it. You'll only have to wonder, everybody.
Yeah, so, but I put on my big girl pants, as
it's not the
say,
killer condom, is it? The one where the condom bites off the guy's dick?
No.
That was a full moon movie. That's like the male scare sort of thing. Yeah.
Gosh,
condom with teeth.
I know I'm a female, but there's one thing I still don't want to watch. I just am not interested with, guys getting their stuff lopped off or eaten and fed to them. Well, anyway.
Chomp, chomp, my chewy chomp.
Yikes. But anyways, yeah. So I was not thrilled about this movie, but I put on my pants and I said, okay, I'll watch it. So the first time I ever watched this movie was 2021. I've
Big girl
heard about
pants,
it.
let's go.
I was like, no, okay. And then I watched it and I was like, this movie is all kinds of crazy and all kinds of horrible.
Very deliberately so too.
So horrible, and just I don't at first you feel for the main character, okay, I kind of understand, and then you're like, man, this girl, she's just mean. She
does a few things that make you kind of question her, her character.
Her motivation switched in her. She went from being the victim to the the criminal type deal.
It's a common theme in horror, though. It's once wronged, it's the tenfold sort of repercussions.
Yeah, she's all screw it, men suck. So I'm just
screw it being the key word.
They just continue to suck, so I'm going to continue to punish them, which I can relate to some of that, I guess. But I don't know. But so I don't know. It was not a movie of my choice, and it was very interesting because of the different stuff they shoved down your throat, but yeah, I mean, this girl was molested as a child.
The scene where they're in the little kiddie pool and the brother. Well, I mean, it's like a Brady Bunch family, albeit condensed to just two people that didn't birth each other's children coming together and everything. But I don't know. This film was ambitious, as I said, but I can't say that I enjoy.
Or a male director? I never looked.
Oh God, that's a good point. I did not. I want to say a guy directed this, but you'll correct us, obviously. But
anyway, sorry, I should have done my research.
No, and that's the thing. We're catching up on so much stuff, all the names jumble and whatnot. But so at the very beginning of this film, we have a woman and her and her son, and then, or actually no, it's the opposite.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
it's a woman and her
a
daughter, and then this guy and his son, and they are both, divorcees, I guess, no longer with the previous peeps, and so they are trying to make life together. And the two kids, the boy and the girl, are in a kiddie pool. Something happens, and there is a life scarring sort of situation. Fast forward to our lady lead, who is now going around to different like church speaking youth group sort of engagements and talking about saving yourself for marriage and the importance of it and all this other stuff. But that doesn't mean she is not susceptible to temptation herself, which is what, like, right off the bat when homie shows up, and there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing like growing up in that sort of church situation and, being privately schooled throughout the entirety of my adolescence up until I got into college. That was my first time at a secular institution, and you can always sniff them out, whether it's a girl who's a hoe or a guy who is just trying to plow through all of those innocent girls who are like, I'm saving myself, whatever. You can always tell, and she falls victim. And yet when she does, that's when you get the confirmation about what is up with her anatomy, and it is gruesomely shown. And yet then the aforementioned change of character that Marcia referenced happens, and she kind of embraces the empowerment, but it corrupts her to a degree too. And I guess without spoiling stuff, that's about as far as I can go. So as a lady yourself, obviously you didn't want to hold a torch for this chick. You didn't think she was taking the power back sort of shit
at first, but then it just got okay, because the scene what she does with her stepbrother, I was like, well, now that's just rude.
I agree.
And then and then
even though he's no saint, he's like a piece of crap himself.
Yeah, but why
although
not just
he was
move
like
on?
a kinky idiot with his girlfriend too. Remember?
I would just move on. Move on.
Well, and also with the other guy who made all the bets about if he was gonna be able to bed her and stuff, and yet not to spoil what happens.
I didn't feel bad for him.
Well, at first you do, because she didn't do the clamp down at first. Remember?
Right, because
then he showed his true colors, and then we know it.
Yeah, because when she didn't want it, it was a defense mechanism, right? Like she's saying no, she doesn't want it, and they are pushing her anyway. That's when it would come out as a protective thing. And then when she thought she was in good hands, as they say, and was like, okay, I trust this guy, and he really cares about me, and they were able to safely have intercourse, and she thought, okay, great. And then she realized he was just playing her, and that's when she's just like, oh yeah, whatever,
Bammer. Sorry,
dude. And that guy was so dumb. At the same time, I'm like, this is stupid, poor writing, because if you knew that this girl could do what she does, and then you maybe you didn't believe it. I guess. Maybe he thought she was making it up, but... That's
where it almost made me think a little bit less of her, because I thought she was relatively smart and wouldn't fall for a guy that was very obviously douchey, and I felt like she should have clamped down right off the bat, because all of the signs about him being a schmuck were evident right off the bat, but she clouded judgment maybe, whatever, and... So it was a little bit of a delayed reaction in that regard.
I mean, she was abused. Her mom died, and she's by herself in this bad situation.
And that's where I do still sympathize with her character and the way that they wrote her. But I don't know. I would imagine a lot of people who enjoy this movie, especially of the female variety, may think drastically differently. But yeah, it's once again it's a lot of ideas, and maybe overstuffing the turkey between the abuse from family members, between the religious aspect, between all of the other things. But I mean, hey, I can't discredit these Canadian filmmakers from at least really trying to boldly do something drastically different in that regard. So her performance, to get into that as we segue to acting and then in turn effects and whatnot, I thought she gave that vulnerability, at least initially, but she did always, from a male perspective like my own, seem like there was, and maybe this is how she was written and instructed by the director to do it, but she did seem kind of closet freak from the get-go in that very first scene, and so, or first scene of where she's at that youth group pep talk sort of situation. But Yeah, I mean, her performance and her arc, at least, even if I didn't like a lot of it from a character standpoint, I felt like her performance was good. The brother, on the other hand, he was so deliberately over the top in his own regard, being Mr. Metalhead and all that stuff, and a stereotypical metalhead, as you could imagine. Well, once again,
was that the kid that was from Snip Tuck? Or Nip Tuck?
Since I've never watched Nip Tuck, I guess I wouldn't know. But yeah,
he looked like he was a kid from that. Anyway, sorry, Snip Tuck.
Yeah, and then obviously Schmuckbag, who's trying to deflower her. He, well, once again, wolf in sheep's clothing, as I mentioned. So
yeah, that was which I didn't blame her on that one, but her stepbrother I did, because it seemed like they had that instant when they were a kid, but then like he seemed to have left her alone. Obviously, I would too. After that,
learn your lesson, thankfully. Like boundaries.
But she more or less went after him because of what happened with her mom. But yeah, I don't know. There is a lot there. I did think the performances were good on her part. Everybody else, it just seemed like overacted a little bit. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say. The gore of it, I mean, I just don't want to see that. I just don't.
The
dog
the
thing.
the whole waterfall scene. I mean, I just cringed.
Yeah, the very first
the first instance of confirmation.
And then the doctor like loses his hand or whatever.
Yeah, and yet they do with the writing basically make everybody moderately justified in what happens to them, I guess. So that's
like in the beginning, and then like I don't know.
Yeah, it does get relatively gory when it wants to be, and this is it's very much in the vein of like Trauma and dare I say Full Moon and stuff like that. So if you're into that sort of schlocky horror that goes into campy bits of gore and is acting like it's trying to say something, but yet maybe mutilation,
I mean, whatever you're into.
Yeah, and there's people into some weird ass shit. So
I mean,
props to you if you find it amusing.
I mean, I can see why people are like not, I wouldn't say drawn to it, but like are like, hey, you should at least watch it once, just because it is shocking and it's definitely something that you don't really get all the time, and mostly if it's going to be some sort of mutilation, it's usually the woman who gets mutilated and not the male.
Yeah, so it is to take the power back, like the Rage Against the Machine song.
Right. So I mean, I'll give it that. It's just not my cup of tea.
Agreed. Yeah, and I can definitely understand, especially from the fact that they approach this from a slightly humorous standpoint. If you are watching this and you were a victim of abuse, we're not downplaying anything of that nature, and I could see this definitely being kind of a, I don't know, cathartic sort of way to
deal with that.
Yeah, most definitely exercise those demons, so to speak.
That's why I was wondering if it was not to say like if it was a female director or writer, like that this is coming from a place of that. But
I mean, having male family members who have been abused by family members, not to get into specifics or anything, but like gender doesn't make it a specific sort of thing in that regard, but like humor, it's like the spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down sort of thing. And so if you approach tough topics like this with the humorous aspect, maybe it can be helpful in the right situation. And so I will give this movie props, and I will just leave it at that. Even though I wasn't over the moon for it and everything, it made some bold choices, and credit for that at least.
And I think, and like part of the hard part for me watching this was because of all of like the sexual abuse. The very first scene with the little girl and her brother and her stepbrother, and like that was. And
it's a little
that's
vague.
A lot.
I mean, thankfully it's not graphic or anything, but it's still.
I mean, they can't show that, but
Thank God not.
You know what's happening because you know what happens in the movie, and then you're like, oh, that little prick, and then. And then, flash forward what happens to her in, like, those scenes. It is hard to watch, because it's hard to watch those things happen to anyone. So
it's the same reason I don't get into...
That's the justification part of it, I guess, with what she does. Even though she does flip, like you said, she gets drunk with the power of it and uses it to her advantage. But she is taking out creeps. So...
True. Yeah.
I don't know.
So rightfully so in that regard, I guess. And I mean, this is definitely a better way of going about it, at least for me. It's more digestible than like a spit on your grave or like your typical rape revenge sort of just hideous shit that I can't even bear watching because there's Like, I
It's
don't
real.
find that
It
sort
feels
of thing
too real.
entertaining. It's
Yeah.
way too real, and I'm not the subject matter really as far as like I can.
Well, that's good. That's
yeah.
good to know that you're not into that.
Fuck no, I don't even like it's probably my least. Yeah, rightfully so. Joking, Marcia. No, but it's my least favorite subgenre
Yeah.
of horror. The whole rape revenge sort of thing. It just it just bothers me. And I guess if you approach it like this, maybe you can get your message across without, just having it be so horrible. But I mean, once again, the subject matter is
People,
still there at
monsters
its
are
core.
real,
So
and they walk among us.
Yeah.
They walk among us.
Yeah.
So,
Fuck.
but yeah. So, well, thanks guys for letting us watch this movie. I finally watched it after X amount of years of it being out. But
and how I still remember, as I said, seeing it on the video shelves and like the bargain bins at Walmart and
Yeah.
stuff over the years. It was like one of those Dimension Extreme releases or something. But yes, thank you, poll voters, for tossing this to us. And if you want to be part of the poll, if you want to request something specific for us to review, commentary, we have various tiers here on the Patreon. And also, if you want to really help us keep the lights on, we have a boogie box option where Cecil helps curate a really dope, bunch of swag that we will send out to your domicile.
yeah.
Damn right. So, thanks, everybody. Yeah, we just kind of wing it here from time to time, and I didn't give any specifics. So I extend the grande gracias, Fright fans. I've been Jaime and Fuego.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And until next time, remember,
Stay
stay scared.